Hello, inspired allied mentors. Welcome back to Am I Welcome Here? Reflections on Interpersonal Racism for the Pre-Health Mentor. We have brought together the following topics to grow our capacity to understand interpersonal racism and apply it to mentoring underrepresented minoritized students. We'll start with acknowledging the land. I acknowledge that I created this presentation and live on ancestral and traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish. I honor with gratitude the land itself, the Duwamish tribe, as well as the surrounding coastal Salish communities. Let's begin. Two difficult terms to even discuss are white supremacy and white privilege. But let's first remember more basic concepts. A stereotype is an idea, a generalization about an entire group of people without regard to their individual differences, which can be positive, but usually are negative. Prejudice is a negative idea or feeling, a conscious or unconscious negative belief about an entire group of people. Prejudice manifested in an action towards an individual or group of people is discrimination. It occurs when the person with prejudice also has and uses power to deny opportunities to a person in another group, and it can apply to multiple axes of identity. Oppression. When an entire group with social power subjugates systematically a group without social power. Oppression itself can result in perpetuation of stereotypes in which the cycle repeats itself. Internalized oppression is when folks in the targeted group believe the stereotypes about their own group. Camara Jones defines racism as a system of structuring opportunity and assigning value based on the social interpretation of how we look that unfairly disadvantages some, advantages others, and saps the strength of the whole society through the waste of human resources. Kendi emphasizes racism as ideas and policies that give rise to racial inequities. He shows that people and organizations can be either racist or anti-racist, but anti-racism is the process of pushing towards racial equity. In this talk, we're focusing on interpersonal and internalized racism, the belief in the superiority of whiteness as manifested in our psyches and interactions. To do so, we must bravely face two concepts, white supremacy and white privilege. Dr. Eddie Moore Jr., the founder of the White Privilege Conference, has said the following: white supremacy is the belief white people are supreme. It is not hyperbole, but intrinsic to our systems, which are designed by a small group of people for a small group of people. He continues, that group of people believed in white male dominance. White privilege is the unearned perk that one gets resembling the people who designed the system. The issue is not white guilt, he says, about the system, but white responsibility to dismantle it. We were brought into a system, according to Dr. Moore, that none of us has control over, but was left to us, and it is benefiting white people, who therefore can't look at systems and deny white privilege. While white supremacy is generally thought of as obvious acts of hate, it persists unchallenged in deeper and insidious ways. This discussion will help us to unearth and address the more covert, socially accepted expressions of white supremacy. Properly addressing white supremacy requires delving into, very briefly, the mechanisms of bias. American racism is essentially a problem that originated in the minds of white folks. Swedish sociologist Gunnar Myrdal, in his Herculean 1944 study of the Negro and American life, concluded the American dilemma is the conflict between moral ideals in the minds of whites and American racial reality. After World War II, responding to a French reporter inquiring about the quote, Negro problem, unquote, in America, playwright Richard Wright corrected the premise of the question by pointing out, quote, "There isn't any Negro problem. There is only a white problem," unquote. Writing to his fellow clergymen from a Birmingham jail, Dr. King lamented, quote, "Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will." In modern times, Robin DiAngelo has said, "I have never met a white person who did not have opinions about race, but these opinions are necessarily uninformed or even ignorant." The video and others point out that implicit bias research focuses on subconscious beliefs, not the behaviors. In other words, these beliefs are the root causes for our behaviors. We can't mask these biases because our automatic responses to situations are measured in milliseconds. We should call out that biases can be positive, negative, or neutral. But in the context of this talk, we are focusing on negative biases. As has become well understood, implicit bias is deeply embedded in healthcare. By way of background, 70% of Americans and 30% of Black Americans demonstrate anti-Black bias. Healthcare providers have the same level of anti-Black bias as the general population. Implicit bias predicts lower quality interactions. Black patients detect more implicitly biased physicians, even when physicians do not detect their own bias. What are microaggressions? Let's examine examples of microaggressions at the intersections of race and other oppressed identities. Charles Chester Pierce originally defined microaggressions as everyday, subtle, and often automatic put-downs. Darrell Wing-Sue defined them as brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, and environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostility, derogatory, or negative slights and insults. Intersectional microaggressions. Black women's experiences may be described as following into these groups: assumptions of beauty and sexual objectification, silence and marginalization, a strong Black woman stereotype, or an angry Black woman stereotype. As we've tragically seen in Atlanta, Asian American women have experienced macro and microaggressions based on exoticism, subservience, and sexual availability stereotypes. Sexual minorities have experienced microaggressions based both on their sexual identity and on their race. Here's a short video that should make it a little clearer what microaggressions are and what happens when you experience them over and over again.
For people who still don't think that microaggressions are a problem,
oh, you're so well spoken.
Just imagine, instead of being a stupid comment, a microaggression is a mosquito bite.
Ugh, it's a compliment.
Mosquito bites and their itch are one of nature's most annoying features. But if you're only bitten every once in a while...
No, where are you really from?
Cleveland?
Sure, it's annoying, but it's not that big a deal. The problem is that some people get bitten by mosquitoes a lot more than other people. I mean, a lot more. Whether it's on a date...
Oh, your English is so good.
Excuse me?
Going grocery shopping.
You know, everything happens for a reason.
Just buying apples.
Commuting to work.
So when are you gonna have a baby?
Watching TV.
We have to keep the Redskins' name. It's part of our culture and history.
Or just walking down the street with your partner.
I couldn't even tell you were gay.
Mosquitoes seem to pop up everywhere.
Do you know John? Give me shopping advice. I love Cher too.
And getting bit by mosquitoes every day.
Can I touch your hair?
Multiple times a day.
So pretty.
Can I touch it,
hair?
please? I want to touch it. Can I please?
Is annoying. That makes you want to go ballistic on those mosquitoes, which seems like a huge overreaction to people who only get bit every once in a while.
It's just a mosquito bite. Who cares?
Just another angry black woman.
Of course, beyond just being annoying, some mosquitoes carry truly threatening diseases that can mess up your life for years.
Astrophysics? Maybe you should try less challenging, Major.
Ow, my dreams.
And other mosquitoes carry strains that can even kill you.
He looked like he was up to trouble, okay? I felt threatened.
So next time you think someone's overreacting, just remember, some people experience mosquito bites all the time.
You're all so exotic. Wow.
And by mosquito bites, we mean microaggressions.